as if playing a heated rival for a spot in the national championship wasn't enough.
So, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How would you like to be the next head football coach at Kansas State University?
I'd be so jacked to be the next head football coach at Kansas State.
North Dakota State has some extra motivation for the rest of the season.
Everyone supports Coach on it and has his back 100%.
We all love Coach Kleiman, but we're going to get a job done.
He's got us all behind him.
When the Bison and the Jackrabbits met back in September,
drilled by Greg Menard.
Easton Stick's heroics in the fourth quarter
Touchdown.
Return the Dakota marker back to Fargo.
The Bison will take back the rock.
The stakes are raised, and a bigger trophy is what both teams are after. A spot in Frisco is on the line, and a chance to keep their coach around for another couple of weeks as well. It's FCS semifinal Friday night at the Fargo Dome, and it starts now.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Hello and welcome into the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. I am Alex Egan. She is Beth Hool, and it's been kind of a ho-hum week around here, huh?
Oh my goodness, where do you begin on this week? There are so many things to talk about, so much excitement, and so many things to get you pumped up for this football game. If you're a football fan, if you're a Bison fan, and you're not ready for this game, I don't know what will get you there.
Yeah, this is going to certainly be an interesting one with everything that has gone on. We'll get to that in just a little bit about, you know, everything that has gone on surrounding NDSU. First, let's get into the bracket, and then there are 4 teams left in the FCS championship bracket. North Dakota State and South Dakota State facing off. Eastern Washington and Maine, they will play tomorrow afternoon. We will be taking you right up to kickoff with the Bison and the Jackrabbits on ESPN2. All right, so plenty going on, plenty happening out at the Dome. Let's go out to the Dome now, and we'll hear from the rest of our crew. We start with Ryan Gellner.
Thank you, guys. About an hour from right now, Chris Kleiman will walk through that door for the final time in the Fargo Dome. He will walk down this hall and make a right as he makes his way for the final time down this iconic hallway as North Dakota State gets set for South Dakota State. It's 2 cities that are 190 miles apart. It is 2 teams that do not like each other and 2 fan bases that absolutely despise each other. With Kleiman's announcement earlier this week, this game all of a sudden somehow got a little bit bigger. Now, I don't know what's going to happen a little bit later on today, but I do know that this game will be one we soon do not forget. And I do think, guys, it will be one of the biggest games, if not the biggest sporting event in Fargo Dome history.
Well, Ryan, I think the reason for that is I think these are the 2 best teams in the country. I've said South Dakota State all along, I believe, in my personal opinion, is number 2. But the committee has kind of made it known that they do not want a Valley Conference championship game down in Frisco, which is why this game is taking place tonight. So if you're not going to play in Frisco, then why not the Fargo Dome? And the Jacks, I believe, are the only team in the country that has an opportunity or a chance to beat the Bison in this building. That's why I agree. It's the biggest game that'll be played here, at least since Georgia Southern in the semifinals.
It's interesting you mentioned Georgia Southern, LT, because that is kind of the benchmark game here at the Fargo Dome. When you talk about Georgia Southern loud, that's the loudest the Dome has been. I think it has a chance to get even louder tonight. But when I watch this game and I get ready for this game and I look at South Dakota State and North Dakota State, the last time they met, the Jacks had 2 weeks to get ready for them, had not really been challenged in the non-conference schedule at all. Well, it's a little different now. South Dakota State has had to go on the road. They're working on short rest. Their depth probably isn't as strong as North Dakota State's. Here we are in game 13-14, where I think the Bison have been able to spread out their reps more evenly over the course of this long grind. Are the Jacks going to be ready? Are they going to be healthy enough and fresh enough to play a full 60-minute game here at the Fargo Dome? That is what I'm going to be watching, to seeing how these Jackrabbits hang through what's going to be a very physical contest here tonight.
All right, thank you very much, guys. We'll be checking in with them throughout the rest of the show. Let's get back to, before we get into this game, let's get back to kind of what we were talking off the top of the show. Where do you begin with this week?
Yeah, well, and I mean, jumping off from those guys, they said this is going to be probably the biggest game, certainly since Georgia Southern, if nothing else, quite possibly the biggest game in Fargo Dome history. And I think that's because of everything that happened this week. There's just been brick after brick after brick added to the emotion that is a part of this week, and that all started Monday with Chris Kleiman.
Yeah, so Monday we were at Chris Kleiman's press conference. He said we expect to hear something within, the day, and then it came out Monday night. I'm taking the job at Kansas State. Gene offered it to him.
Officially announced as the head coach at Kansas State Monday night. Tuesday, he takes off for Manhattan, Kansas. Wednesday, he's officially announced. Also on Tuesday, Matt Larson talks to us about beginning that search for a new head coach. And lo and behold, last night, we have a new head coach for NDSU. So this has happened. There has been news every day this week regarding NDSU football and the head coach.
Yeah, so what would have been fun to talk about this week, and we would have been talking about it all throughout the week, would have been, hey, let's talk about this. NDSU, SDSU, this is such a great matchup. It's for the semifinals. It's a trip to Frisco on the line. Instead, we were talking about Chris Kleiman taking the Kansas State job and Matt Entz being named as the new head coach for North Dakota State.
But what's so fantastic about that is there was no drama in any of it. This very easily could have been, if you think back, those Bison fans that have been around, I lived through the Craig Bull, Chris Kleiman transition. That was dramatic. This was not dramatic by any means. Chris Kleiman is speaking in the press release from NDSU announcing Matt Entz as the next head coach. Yeah. I mean, there was complete confidence, a smooth transition. Talking to the players this week, they were all in support. Not a single bad thing said about it. I asked Dan Marlette on Wednesday. I had him one-on-one for a little bit, and we talked about that transition, and he said, boy, the coaches I know don't know exactly what's going on right now, but I'm so impressed. You wouldn't know anything is different inside this building.
So I think what is important to remember is none of these kids were around during the 13 transition. They were not here for that, so they don't know exactly how everything went down.
They were getting phone calls from Chris Kleiman saying, we're honoring your scholarship offer and your commitment if you'll honor yours to us. But they weren't in the building. They didn't see the drama that unfolded.
So they have no frame of reference for what could have happened and what did happen back in 13.
They heard about it.
They did hear, but they never lived it. And so that's what I think is impressive. And I think another thing which speaks to Chris Kleiman is how he handled this. He was very upfront with us throughout the course of the week. He was upfront with us Saturday after the win over Colgate. He said, look, I've talked with them. This is what's going on. He was upfront with his team. He met with his team 2 weeks ago to say, hey, look, you're going to start hearing about some of this stuff. You're going to read about it on social media. Here's what's happening. And I think his team really appreciates that, and they appreciate...
The result of that was a standing ovation.
Right.
When he told his team at practice. They got up and gave him a standing ovation as he said, I'm leaving. Yeah. It's beautiful. The testament to the camaraderie, the brotherhood of this football team. It's second to none. We've argued throughout the year that this team could go down as the greatest team in Bison football history, and this is just another piece in that puzzle when you see how maturely they've handled this.
Absolutely, and as you said, you talked with Dan Marlette. We got a chance to catch up with a couple of the other guys. Let's hear about their support for Chris Kleiman during this whole thing.
It was pretty evident. We met together as players that everyone supports Coach on it and has his back 100% because, like I said, he's done so much for us and has done an unbelievable job leading this program for a long time.
Coach Kleiman did it the best way he could, and so it was an easy transition for us, even though we're not really transitioning quite yet, since Matt Larson's letting him coach us throughout this playoff run, which is great.
A lot of the outside people don't understand what we've built here at NDSU. We all love Coach Kleiman, but we're going to get a job done.
And then moving on from there, Matt Entz announced as the head coach last night, and the outpouring of support for him. We don't get to talk to him officially until Monday, but the outpouring of support for him has been just overwhelming, really, to see so many past, present players just really excited about that hire. So, again, another smooth transition.
Real quick, to go back to what Ty had to say there, he said, we got to get a job done. It's our job. I mean, other than school, that's our thing. We have to do school. We have to do the school and the football, which ties into what we're going to talk about now. See, that's a segue.
There you go.
I'm a pro at this. Not so much.
How many weeks in?
Yeah. So today, on top of a football game and everything else that's going on, Graduation. Oh, yeah. There's some guys that'll be walking across the stage. A huge life moment, getting your college diploma. How awesome is that to see today?
It's become a tradition for Bison football to be able to go walk at graduation, have a quick meal, and get ready to play football. It's pretty special. It's a really unique experience. A lot of college athletes don't get that. Excited for these young men today.
Absolutely. Good to see them out there. We are going to step aside. We come back. We'll take a look into this game specifically. We're going to talk about the two quarterbacks that are getting ready to face off. That's still to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. Welcome back inside our Fargo studios, the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. We are talking about the quarterbacks as the Bison and the Jackrabbits get set to play in the FCS semifinals.
It's such a huge part of this game. You can't talk about either of these teams without talking about their quarterbacks, top to bottom, coaching staffs, media. Everybody is going to point out the similarities between these two guys and really in their path through college football and what they've gone through. It's really been interesting to watch and see. They both play extremely hard, smart football with great teams, but it's going to come down to really, and so many have said, which quarterback is able to execute and make the big play.
It's very
big play.
Yeah, the big play. It's very funny, though, how these two mirror each other. They're the same age. They come from the same class. You know, they were both recruited by these two same schools. NDSU had interest in Tarrant Christian. SDSU had interest in Easton Stick. They ended up going their separate ways, you know, to each institution. But this is very interesting how these two are now meeting for this spot in what could be, you know, the final game for one of them. It's the final game for one of them. So let's take a look at Easton Stick's numbers here. That completion percentage has been creeping its way up. 25 passing touchdowns, 11 rushing touchdowns for Easton this year. And then on the flip side, Tarrant Christian has been good. Keep in mind, he's got a game less because South Dakota State had a game canceled earlier this year. So there he is, 30 passing touchdowns. I know that, you know, Easton's got 25, but you just see 30, and that number just jumps out to you. And I was looking up his stats, and wow,
I heard you.
30
Yes.
rushing, 30 touchdowns. Interceptions, which I apparently forgot to put on there. Tarrant's been able to take care of the ball pretty well. I'll get you that number maybe in a little bit. But let's talk about Easton Stick and what he does. Actually, I will tell you a Tarrant Christian interception stat here in just a second. But Easton Stick and what he brings to this team, I mean, we've been talking about him all year. He's a Walter Payton Award candidate. He is, as the Bison offense goes, Easton Stick goes, and then vice versa.
And it's gone really well.
Yeah, it's been an incredible thing. I was able to talk to him last week about, you know, how are they able to do so much stuff, and he really said, look, it's because I can handle it, because I know this offense inside and out. It doesn't matter that it's Courtney Messingham in his second season or, you know, Tim Polasek earlier on, and I think that it's good for Easton that he can handle so much.
Yes. Okay, no, that is exactly where I want to go. Thank goodness. Oh, my goodness, Alex. Yes, that is exactly where I want to go in this, because I think what makes Easton so impressive is the experiences that he's had and the way he shined in those experiences. I think what makes these two quarterbacks very different is the fact that the lights are never too bright for Easton Stick. He's lost a couple football games, but it's never been because the lights were too bright. I think Tarrant Christian gets a little bit nervous. I think he starts to feel the heat, and I think he hears footsteps. I don't think he likes to get hit, and when he does, I think that it's a complete game changer. I think that's what you saw last year when he had very easily the worst game of his career. That's exactly what happens to Tarrant Christian. He gets hit, and the lights get bright.
And I will say this. Okay, so Tarrant Christian, he had that rough game against James Madison in the semifinals last year. He turned the ball over, what was it, 8 times, 5 interceptions, 3 fumbles.
Yeah.
It was not good. It was a bad game. But credit to him for coming back and putting the performance he's put together this year.
That's his job.
I understand, but still, it's very easy that you could have packed it in and called it a day and said, well, I'm never getting past this semifinal game.
And I'm not trying to discredit this young man. Right. He is an outstanding young man. I'm not talking bad about a 20-year-old kid here, okay? That's not what I mean, but it is his job.
Right.
And that is what he is expected to do. And if you don't, you lose your job. So that's all on the line. I'm just saying that I think that he gets a little nervous. I think he hasn't had the experiences and the exposure that Easton Stick has had, and I think that plays to Easton's benefit. You see how calm he is.
Yeah.
How they can trail in a football game. Look at this game earlier in the regular season. NDSU was trailing, and they never showed signs of panic or concern.
You remember when SDSU came in here, it was game 4 of the season. It was the first Valley game for both schools, and it was just an interesting atmosphere. SDSU was about ready to just go up 14-0. Tarrant Christian throws a pick in the end zone, and then everything kind of shifts momentum back to NDSU's sideline. So we talked to the guys this week about Christian, and I know that they're not on the field together at the same time, Easton Stick and Tarrant Christian. They're never on the field at the same time, but they're very aware of each other.
So much respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what Easton had to say.
You just know going into it that he's a really good player, and I've got a bunch of respect for him. And so, you know, going into it that you're going to have to make plays as an offense, because you know, our defense is really good, and give them their credit, but at the same time, so is Taryn, and so he's going to make his plays, and so you understand that's going to happen. And
he's definitely a game changer. He was in high school, and he's a player that a team, you know, game plans around. And honestly, he was dominant in high school, and now he's dominant in college, and he's had a great career, and it's been a great thing to watch and see.
Talk about a guy who's probably sick of seeing Taryn Christian line up on the opposite side of the football.
Yeah, nobody's nicer than Dan Marlette. I mean, off the football field.
Right.
But I asked him, I said, are you about ready to stop seeing this kid? Because they played against each other throughout high school, rival
Both
high
Sioux
schools
Falls
in
kids,
Sioux Falls. And he smiled and said, yeah.
I'm done seeing 3 line up on the other side. Because he is a playmaker. That is what Taryn Christian does. He is a fantastic quarterback. And everybody's saying this is the 2 best quarterbacks in FCS football, and I will not disagree with that.
I won't argue with that by any means. I just think Easton is better. I think Easton has more life experience on the football field. I think he has more confidence, and I think it just shows day in and day out. I think at the end of the day, this is Easton Stick's year. He's driven, he's determined, he's as smart and as intelligent as he has been yet in his career. I just don't think he's going to be denied, especially not in this matchup.
Absolutely. You know, the weather's been kind of rough around Fargo lately, but not so much
it's beautiful.
It's great. It's a great tailgating weather. Speaking of people who will not be denied, Mike Morgan will not be denied out in the tailgate lot, and that's where we join him.
The real MVP.
All right, thanks so much. Wow, what a gorgeous day out here for the semifinal game in mid-December. You can't argue with temperatures like this.
Absolutely not.
Fantastic. You're one of my contestants, and so are you. We'll start with him, if you don't mind. Okay. All right. We are playing for $50 gift certificates if you get it correct. You have to answer it correctly. No one to date has gotten it wrong.
No pressure.
Here we go. Through 9 home games this year, is the Bison Fargo Dome average attendance just over or just under 18,000? And you can ask the crowd if you need help.
Average, just over.
Just over. That is correct. 18,085 per game. I'm guessing, and from what I hear, it's sold out tonight. So that'll be great. You won yourself a $50 gift card to Lucky's 13 Pub. Oh. Congratulations.
All right.
And I think I forgot to ask your name.
My name is Tom.
Tom, congratulations.
Thank you.
I won't forget now. What is your name?
Megan.
Megan. You saw what he did, right?
Yeah.
He got it correct.
Uh-huh.
The streak continues. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. At this point in the season, who is leading the team in scoring? Is it Cam Peterson or is it Lance Dunn? Help, maybe?
It's Lance Dunn. I'm hearing from the crowd that it's Lance Dunn.
Lance Dunn. Did anyone say Cam Peterson?
I did.
And you thought that was, you've already answered. Sorry. Let's try that again. I'll ask it again. At this point in the season, who is leading the team in scoring? And you see where the pink marker there is?
Yeah.
Okay, is it Cam Peterson or Lance Dunn?
Cam Peterson.
Cam Peterson is correct. You got it correct. And you win yourself a $50 gift card to the True Blue Social Club. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, fans. How about it?
All right, thank you so much, Mike. There is still more of the pregame show to come here right after this. Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. North Dakota State, South Dakota State in the FCS semifinals coming your way in just a little bit. We caught up with the coach of the Jackrabbits making his second trip to Fargo this year. It is John Stiglmeyer, and he is standing by with Ryan Gilner.
Thank you, guys. And yeah, Coach, it seems like you and I have had this chat quite a bit. These two teams just keep running into each other.
Well, it's proof really good football teams. And, you know, the playoff thing hasn't gone our way, but we're excited to be here and try to prove something this night.
I think this is me saying this. I think they got the 2 best teams maybe in the country doing battle. One of you will get to go to Frisco. One of you will not. Obviously, a lot on this game. What's the big difference, do you think, in this game? Because these teams know each other so well. maybe the biggest advantage you think South Dakota State has?
I don't know if there is an advantage. You know, I think in this type of game, you know, it's going to be one guy stepping up at a special time, and that could be in any phase of the game. You know, obviously with the two best quarterbacks in FCS football are in this game, and those guys are going to make a difference in the game. But it might be an interception, might be a kick. I don't know. What scares you with that same mentality? What scares you about North Dakota State? Well, I don't know if it scares me, but I respect the program, and I respect Easton Stick. I think he's a winner in every phase of the word. I think he's a gritty guy. I think he makes plays when guys don't think he can, and he thinks he can. So I guess he's the thing that he's the guy in the program that concerns me the most. Can you talk about the excitement in your locker room, getting a chance to play, to go to a national championship, being a game away, that thirsty feeling? Can you talk about that? Yeah, it's kind of a mature excitement, to be honest with you. You know, we went down to Kennesaw, we got the win, and guys got on the plane and they weren't giddy. They weren't saying, talking about what we're talking about. They were all matter of fact and businesslike. And we started out the season talking about everybody we had lost last year. These guys got a bit of a chip on their shoulder. North Dakota State, of course, with the coaching change, a little bit of distraction there. That play into this thing at all, you think? I think it helps them. Yeah, I really do. I think Coach Kleiman's a special guy. They just named Entz as the head coach. I mean, so everything's lined up. If anytime I was an athlete and I had a special coach, I didn't care what was going on. I want to play hard for him. I'm sure they'll play hard for Chris. Stig, when you go out there in just a little bit, it is going to be wild. It'll be a fun environment. We're used to that. A credit to the North Dakota State fans. I call it a cult, but they do a great job and they affect the game, and we're looking forward to it. We can't thank you enough for the time. Good luck in the game tonight. Thanks. Take care.
He calls it a cult.
I like that. I think I'm okay with that. And you know what? I do need to say, I know I rag on SDSU year in and year out, and it's one of my favorite rants to get riled up for is the SDSU-NDSU game. But I do have to say, a true, honest thank you to John Stiglmeyer. Yeah. Always so great to work with, and really do appreciate him giving us his time. He does not have to do that. Right. And it's just him being a good guy about that. So big thanks to him. Appreciate it. Now back to ragging on the job.
Okay, she got the nice out. That's all we needed. I thought it was interesting what he said there about how he thinks the coaching change will affect this team, and how he thinks that it is an advantage for this Bison team.
100%.
I think that's interesting.
I don't think I would ever be more nervous to be a Jackrabbit and coming into the Fargo Dome than I would be this weekend, because I think it is going to be the most electric atmosphere that we have seen in a really long time. Our whole team has been talking about this. This is going to go down in the record books for nights in the Fargo Dome, and to be on the other side of that, because it's not just the fans who are going to be amped up and wild and loud. I think these guys are on another level. I was with them this afternoon at graduation, and I saw they were laser focused then. They were ready to go, and I got to talk to Chris, and he said his team's ready. Yeah, they're ready.
Should be an interesting atmosphere out there. All right, let's turn our attention to our Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Injury Report. We go back out to the Dome and Ryan Gellner.
Thank you, guys. Today, it's a unique look inside the NDSU doctor's office, I guess you could call it. In fact, it's the Sanford Health Office today, as Dr. Bruce Pyatt joins us. We are inside the Fargo Dome in the doctor's office, which happens to be in the training room, and all of your tools, or at least most of them, are here if you should need them.
Yeah, we've got almost everything available that we might need where we could take care of one of the athletes and get them back on the field. Or if we need to, we can stabilize a situation and get them transported to a higher level care at the hospital if we need to as well.
This room really does have it all: an x-ray machine, a table. As you can see behind the doctor, there are lots of tools, Bruce, that you use in your trade if anything should happen. For instance, if you need to give stitches, you've got your stuff here.
Yeah, we can do a lot of things, and they come into play. We can suture people up if they have lacerations, and that allows us to get them back on the field very quickly in a lot of situations. But also, with these athletes, a lot of times cramping comes into play, or they've been ill and vomiting, so we can bring them in here if we need to, hydrate them with IV solutions. We can get answers with the x-ray machine right away. If there's a question of an athlete, can he continue to participate, we can x-ray him. No, are we dealing with a fracture? Are we dealing with a bruise or a contusion or what? So we can really get real live, real-time information for them.
How often will you use this room during a serious incident? I assume you'd transport right away, although anything short of that, you could bring him in here.
Exactly. If it's a real serious thing that's obvious to us on the field, some of the things where there's spine involvement or head injuries and things like that, we're going to transport them immediately. We have that capability with the ambulance able to come directly onto the field and transport them to an emergency room for us. But even with some of the head injury stuff, we can bring them back in here into a very closed, kind of quiet environment to get a very clear consensus on what's going on with them, and really just stabilize the situation for them that way as well.
It is just another reason why Sanford Health continues to lead the way and why North Dakota State has partnered with this great institution. Thank you again for all your time in the backyard tour, I guess you could say, of the facilities back here. Really something pretty impressive. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you very much, and we hope we don't have to use it.
Yeah, let's hope not, especially for some of the reporters and things like that on scene as well. Guys, back to you.
We do know that Ryan Gellner is a full go for tonight's game.
Thank goodness. Yeah, we've had a healthy run this season. So.
We sure have. All right, let's get into serious stuff here. The injuries for the Bison. We do. Lance Dunn left last week's game against Colgate with a sling. He is questionable with an elbow injury. Blake Williams did not play in the Colgate game. He has a shoulder injury and is questionable, and Dan Marlette tweaked an ankle in that game as well. We do expect Dan to play in this one, and we'll obviously keep monitoring things as the game goes along.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll step aside. We come back. We'll take a look at who we think needs to have a big game tonight.
Everyone.
That's still to come. Yeah, all of them, right? That's still to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
It's time for another Coach 'em Up with Tyler Roll this time, the tight ends coach and fullbacks coach at North Dakota State. We're talking about hanging on to the football, which is a pretty big thing when it comes to any level of football.
It's a big job. I think with any team, any coach would say offensively it's all about the ball. And the biggest thing that I talk about that I was taught as a running back here at NDSU was it's 5 points of pressure. The first thing is your hand. How are you going to hold the ball? I always liked splitting my pointer finger and my middle finger over the tip of the ball. Some people want to put their pointer finger on the tip of the ball. Some people want their middle finger on the tip of the ball. I liked using this grip. I felt much more comfortable with it. Then the second point of pressure, you got to have that ball against your forearm, okay? Third point of pressure, elbow tight, all right? Fourth point of pressure, I always talk about getting red ribs, okay? That ball, as you're running, you're going to create, really a red sensation on your skin, okay? Because you're squeezing that ball so tight, okay? Fifth, mentally. You got to understand, hey, I'm carrying the ball for the team. I'm taking care of this ball. So the fifth point of pressure, I say, is mentally, all right? And then the last thing is you always want your wrist above your elbow. Once that wrist starts to drop below your elbow, I talk in terms of you're flagging the ball. That you can much, as a defender, grab that ball and try to strip it loose from the ball carrier. So I always say wrist above elbow or point of the ball to the sky. And you got to really squeeze that ball tight.
So does this get harder then as you get faster down the field? As you get into your sprinting motion, is it harder to keep the ball up there?
Yeah, there's a few things that I would say. You always want that ball in your outside arm. So if you're running to the left, ball in your left arm. If you're running to the right, ball in your right arm. If you feel as a ball carrier that you are breaking loose from the defense or no one is around you, and you better be certain, I say you can run, But if you feel like you're in traffic, you better be squeezing onto that ball. So if you're trying to run fast and squeeze the ball at the same time, that gets difficult. You really got to use your off arm.
Good stuff from Tyler Roll. On the football, it's important.
You absolutely need to.
Coach him up. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
But you talk about something that might be important tonight. Ball security, yeah. Hang on to the football tonight there, fellas. Let's go to our Bobcat heavy lifting player. It is Jabril Cox. We highlighted him because, last time these two teams met up, he's really only played a game and a half against the Jacks in his career, but the last time, he had a pretty good game earlier this season.
Yeah, he's done pretty well against them, and as we have talked at length about, the game changers in this game are really those quarterbacks. So how can you help stop Taryn Christian? Send this guy after him. And like I said, I don't think Christian likes getting hit.
Right.
And so who better to get hit by than Jabril? Well, I guess.
I would not sign up for any of them to hit me, to be honest. If that's what we're the sign-up sheet, I'm walking right past it. That's where I'm going. All right, let's go back out to the tailgate lot. Mike Morgan.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, wow, it is so wonderful out here, isn't it? Sun is in our face. You can feel the heat out here, and it's mid-December. Isn't that bizarre? But we're here not to talk about the weather. We're here to answer some questions regarding Bison football, and you are my first contestant.
Okay, I'm sure I'll get it right.
Your name?
Polly.
Polly, here we go. This is a tough one. Student tickets for this game sold out. If you were an NDSU student with a student ID, how much did you pay for a ticket? $6 or $16? And you can ask anyone around here.
Six.
6 seems to be the prevailing wind here, and 6 is correct. You are correct. Clearly, this is a smart bunch of people that were here. And you won yourself a $50 gift certificate to the True Blue Social Club.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Wasn't that easy?
It was great.
Do you think Ethan will have just as easy a time?
He's a male, so I don't
the
know.
crowd doesn't think so. Ethan, where are you from?
I live in Fargo.
Okay, here we go. You saw what she did.
Yep.
All right, the bar's been set. In late September, NDSU beat SDSU. Did Easton Stick pass for 2 TDs and run for 1? Or did he run for 2 TDs and pass for 1? And you can ask this all-knowing crowd.
The first one.
The first one.
Pass for 2, ran for 1.
Pass for 2, ran for 1. Crowd, do you think he's got it right?
What was the first one?
The first. Did he pass for 2 TDs and run for 1, or run for 2 TDs and pass for 1? Ethan, the game starts shortly.
I think it's the first one.
It's the first one. That is correct. Yep. Watch the hand gestures, Ethan. Watch the hand gestures. You win yourself a $50 gift card to Lucky's 13 Pub. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for playing. Let's go back to the studio.
All right, thanks,
Yeah,
Mike.
it's a family broadcast.
Come on, Ethan. Yeah, all right. When we come back, we will go out to the Dome and hear from the rest of our team as we are getting you set for FCS semifinal Friday night. That's still to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show.
We are in the lobby of the Fargo Dome, and it is an electric atmosphere as fans get ready for this FCS semifinal game. This is Lee Timmerman, Brian Sean. My name is Ryan Gellner, and the Bison are back where they belong, just 4 quarters away from a trip to Frisco, Texas. As we get ready for this football game, Lee, the Bison, they only know semifinal games.
They certainly do, and for South Dakota State, the one thing that's not on Taryn Christian's resume is a game like this, winning a game like this. I mean, South Dakota State has been a really good football team in the FCS for a long time, but outside the Valley, nobody knows it because they can't get by the team that calls this place home.
We've said it for a week, Brian, but these 2 teams know each other, and that's a problem for both teams.
Yeah, it is. I think you have to try to reinvent yourself, but not too much. And you still got to do what you do well. But when you play each other as many times as these teams have in a short week, how many new wrinkles do you throw in, and how often do you use those wrinkles, and how quickly do you use them? I would assume both teams are going to try to get some stuff out on the table. I also would suspect we're going to see a lot of quarterback run from both teams. I think Christian and Stick are going to have to carry it a lot tonight for their respective teams.
Speaking of the quarterback, let's get into our Dakota Magic Casino keys to the football game. And it starts with the quarterback for South Dakota State. If the Bison are going to win today, they need to keep number 3 in the pocket. Taryn Christian is a lot like Easton Stick. He can beat you with his arm, but it's certainly his legs that scare you. North Dakota State can't let Christian make plays on his feet today. If they can keep him in the pocket, Brian, they've got a shot. You say he likes to go one way rather than the other.
Well, to me, when he escapes from the pocket and he runs with his throwing arm and his right arm when he's running outside, that's where he is most dangerous, because as a defender, you're not sure if you should come up and defend the run, or if he stays behind that line just long enough to launch it downfield to get an explosive play on you. So whatever North Dakota State does, it has to be measured, it has to be very tactical, and they're going to have to mix it up and give him some different looks as many times as they can so he doesn't get comfortable in that pocket or outside it.
When he does pass, Lee, he's looking for mainly one guy, and it's key number 2, and that's simply where's Cade? And we are talking about wide receiver Cade Johnson. There's not a lot of drop-off when you look back at some of the best SDSU wide receivers to Cade Johnson. He's special.
No, he's one of the best that the Bison are going to face again all year long. But the one thing that Taron Christian it kind of piggybacks a little bit, I think, on key one is Christian is so good at making everyone else better. Cade Johnson is a case in point. I mean, Christian's thrown 30 touchdown passes this year. 16 of them have gone to Cade Johnson. So much like NDSU, where they have the one go-to guy in that wide receiver spot, it's without a doubt number 15, and the Bison will watch him very, very closely.
This crowd behind us is fired up, and it leads to key number 3, and that's dealing with the crowd. It's communication. If the Bison are going to win this football game, they've got to deal with the crowd just as much as South Dakota State does. Brian, when you called a game earlier this season, if there was a game where North Dakota State's defense was off, it was early in the season, and a lot of that had to do with crowd noise. We think they've got that issue fixed, but it can affect the defense as well.
Oh, it certainly can. And when you talk about hand motions to make sure everybody's on the same page, if 1/11th is not on the same page, it can lead to an explosive play on the other end. And for South Dakota State, they've been able to get the crowd out of the game early the last 2 times they played North Dakota State by getting the ball first and scoring early. So that first drive for South Dakota State, Eric Eisens has done a nice job scripting some stuff together to get this team on the board. We'll see if North Dakota State does something to try to offset that and get Taron Christian uncomfortable early in the series.
In games like this, Lee, with 2 evenly matched opponents, it's things like special teams, turnovers, and you can't say that enough.
That's true. That's in any football game. But the thing I think that I'm going to try to look for early is what's South Dakota State going to do that's different. SDSU cannot line up, run their base plays, and beat NDSU. Something different is going to happen. If it's a lot of empty, if it's an unbalanced set, if it's a no huddle set, but that'll be piggybacking again a little bit off of key number 3. How quick can the Bison figure that out and then make the adjustments to that? Because you know the Jackrabbits have a thing or two out of the hat, maybe up their sleeve.
Well played. And Coach Stig has done that time and time again. The second time around as SDSU plays North Dakota State. This crowd, Brian, we talked about it a little bit, but the crowd can't be underestimated. These guys are going to be jacked up, and you look at all the different things that have gone into play this week. How does Coach Kleiman leaving, Matt Entz becoming the head coach, you think that fires up this crowd even more?
I think it galvanizes everybody because you want to send Coach Kleiman out the right way. The fan base has been incredibly supportive of him taking this position, recognizing what an opportunity is for him. And then I think everybody is also thrilled that Matt Entz is sticking around to become the head coach, a guy that's been a 3-time FCS Coordinator of the Year nominee and is very well respected by his players and the fan base. I think all this together, I think it focuses everybody, including the crowd, and might we have 19,000 for a playoff game for the first time? I think we have a good chance here tonight.
The roof, go ahead.
I'll just to add that I talked to some coaches and stuff this week on the Bison side and asked the question, has any of this take the focus away from the game itself? Not with this many seniors, it has not. The players are focused on what they have to do, and that's win the football game.
This crowd is focused as well. The roof might come off this place in about 15 minutes. We'll hear from the head coach coming up in just a little bit. We bring it back to the Fargo Dome as we get closer to kickoff between North Dakota State and South Dakota State next. To kickoff, and we will take you right up to the kickoff, and then you can flip over to ESPN2 for the football game. The Associated Press All-Conference All-American team is out. That's how we start this week's Herdline News. The All-American team is headlined, of course, by Bison quarterback Easton Stick. Also on the first team, center Tanner Volson and safety Robbie Grimsley. Second teamers include D-end Greg Menard, linebacker Jabril Cox, Zach Johnson and Garrett Wagner, both named to the third team. Defensive end Greg Menard was also named to the Google Cloud Academia All-American first team. For the third time in his career, Menard has a 3.85 GPA in civil engineering. Easton Stick is a second team member. The Bison quarterback has a 3.92 in sports management and a 4.0 in the Masters of Business Administration program. On the field, Stick continues to climb the mountain of the most FCS wins by a quarterback. Of course, he is chasing former Bison Brock Jensen. Stick now 1 win away from tying Jensen in the all-time wins list. With a win today, Stick and Jensen would both have 48 wins as an FCS quarterback. By the end of the year, Stick could hold the record all by himself. Easton Stick also just accepted his invite to the East-West Shrine game. Finally, a tip of the hat to head coach Chris Kleiman, who will coach his final game in the Fargo Dome tonight. Kleiman has accepted the next head coaching job at Kansas State, and it's been an honor to interview the head coach before each game the last few seasons. I had the chance to catch up with Coach Kleiman one final time in the hallway outside the Bison locker room. It has been a pretty crazy week for you. How have you managed all of this? You got a football game tonight.
Well, I've got a bunch of players in there that I love and love me, and I've got a great administration here that has been really supportive. And you know, it's business as usual. We have 24 phenomenal seniors, a great football team, a galvanized locker room. We had great focus, great energy all week, and I'm excited to watch us play.
And I would assume that you expect your team to play well both offensively and defensively, because that's what they do.
Yeah, that's what we do, and I'm so excited to watch them. These guys are so focused, so locked in. We've had a great week of preparation, and I can't wait to get this thing kicked off.
Pierre Strong, a running back that did not play against you last time, really a patient running back who then has a pretty good burst. You got to slow him down.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a tremendous football player, and we got to eliminate that explosive play. They had one on us when we played him here in September. That has to be eliminated, and obviously, you know, Christian's the key. We have to keep him contained, whether it's design runs or run on improvising runs. We have to do a great job with him.
It certainly has been fun, Coach, as you make your way down this hallway, the final time in this building. The emotions.
Well, you know, I have 24 seniors that I brought in here, 4- and 5-year guys, and I told them I'm going out with them, and we're going out together. I love those guys, and they love me, and I'm excited as heck to run out of this tunnel one more time with those guys.
You know, when you come around the corner, when you come through that helmet, the roof's going to come off this place.
I think it's going to be pretty loud here tonight. I think it's going to be an unbelievable crowd. I know that the crowd's going to be a huge factor. This is what college football is all about.
Chris, you've always taken the time. We really do appreciate it. And on behalf of all of us, Dave behind the camera, myself, Beth, Alex, we're rooting for you.
Appreciate
it. We want you to win one more. Keep this thing going.
Absolutely. Thanks for all the support, guys.
6 minutes to kick off as the Bison and Jackrabbits do battle. These folks trying to get into the Fargo Dome, get to their seat to watch that final walk from head coach Chris Kleiman. The game is just around the corner. We'll be back in just a bit.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Going to go back out to the Fargo Dome, and we'll get the guys' final thoughts. Guys?
Hey, Alex, for me, it is red zone. North Dakota State has been so good in the red zone defensively, allowing just 6 touchdowns all year. South Dakota State can put it in the end zone. If they can figure out a way to get 6 points on the board instead of 3 points, they've got a chance. We'll see if they can do it. Lee?
For me, I think the Bison have a distinct advantage in a couple of different areas. One's the offensive line. All 5 guys intact all year. They're playing very well. They're a veteran group. And I think the other position is defensive ends, where the Bison defensive ends have a big edge over the tackles of South Dakota State. So whenever you're talking advantages on the offensive defensive line, you can guess who I think is going to win.
Brian?
I would say my final thoughts are this: explosive plays, and when you have an opportunity to make one, you got to hit on it. South Dakota State had a couple opportunities they missed. Cade Johnson dropped a 90-yard touchdown in the first game. That might have been the difference in a Jackrabbit victory. North Dakota State has to do the same thing. If their running backs get to that second level, get one-on-one with the safety, you got to make him miss, and you got to hit the home run when you get the opportunity.
4 quarters to Frisco, guys. It is an electric atmosphere, maybe the biggest sporting event ever inside this building. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, guys. We got 1:50 on our Coors Light countdown clock there. Beth, your final thoughts as we get set for this one.
Make Taryn uncomfortable. I said it early. I'm sticking with it. Make Taryn Christian as uncomfortable as possible. Jabril Cox, our Bobcat heavy lifting player, get after him.
Yeah, I think the big key in this one is the hidden yards. I think the hidden yards are going to be big again. In any game, those are magnified, so that punt return, or maybe not letting that punt bounce and you lose 15 yards of field position that way. making sure you have the fair catches, those hidden yards, I think will end up being big. And of course, playmakers have to make plays today.
Absolutely. And then I think the final thing that every one of us is thinking about is that emotion that's involved in this game. This is a huge one. This is what it's all about.
Do it?
No, I'm not
going to do it.
No, this is huge, though.
It is a big game. Chris Kleiman obviously coaching in his final game at the Fargo Dome. He will be off to Manhattan, Kansas whenever the Bison season ends. We hope that we have at least one more after today. 4 quarters to Frisco. You heard Ryan Gellner say it there.
Come
4
on.
quarters to Frisco.
We've all worked hard all season long. Let's earn that trip to Frisco.
That January vacation we all take, right?
Yes, well, sorry.
Yeah, I don't get to go, but that's okay.
Sorry.
People have jobs to do
It's been a fun
here.
year, though, guys, and we appreciate you joining us here in studio and out at the Fargo Dome on the road. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes that makes this happen.
So many people that work on this show that you get the pleasure, I'll say pleasure, of seeing us all the time, but there are a ton of people that work on this behind the scenes, and we cannot thank them enough, and we cannot thank you enough for watching week in and week out. That'll do it for the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. Send you on over to ESPN2. Enjoy the game, everybody.